Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Sherry, and I'm an MBA student here at MIT Sloan. It is my pleasure to introduce our panel, From Click to Tip-Off, Modernizing Sports Ticketing. Our panelists today are Emily Johnson, Head of Business Development at Eventellect, Mike Shane, Executive Vice President of Enterprise Partnerships at SeatGeek, Carrie Gritton, Senior Vice President of Consumer Strategy at NASCAR, Jeff Heaton, Senior Vice President of Ticketing and Premium Sales for the Utah Jazz and Utah Hockey Club. Our panel will be moderated by Aaron Kelly from Craft Analytics Group. The panel will run for 40 minutes, and we will leave 5 minutes at the end for questions. Please submit questions via our Cadence app. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
Awesome. Good morning. So excited to be here with you guys today. We got a great panel planned here. The most fundamental fan experience in sports is a live experience. Our panel represents top ticketing voices across teams, leagues, and partners. Together, we will explore the evolving landscape of how fans buy, sell, and experience live events. These experts will share insights on innovations in ticketing strategy, from AI-driven pricing to personalized fan engagement, and how organizations are adapting to maximize both revenue and accessibility. Importantly, we'll make some predictions on what's to come. So let's dive in. All right, so we'll start with setting the table in terms of the evolving ticketing landscape. So for all the panelists, and we'll start with you, Jeff, the ticketing landscape has evolved significantly in the last decade. What do you see as the biggest shift in how fans buy tickets today compared to 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's very different. Things changed a lot post-COVID. We used to see people buy tickets about 3 days prior to the event, probably about 25% of people. On our MBA side, what's been interesting is post-COVID now we are at near 50% of people buying tickets in the final 3 days. What that causes is it makes it a little bit more difficult for us to price and maintain pricing and hold steady. When we play the Lakers, for instance, we might have 1,000 tickets move in the day leading up to the event, and when we're trying to get to a sellout, to tell your bosses and the team owner that you've got 1,000 tickets to move in the last day and feel confident that they're gonna move. It's an interesting thing to juggle, but things are changing and people are a little bit more spontaneous.
Awesome. Carrie at NASCAR?
I would echo on the timing front as well. We see a lot of that at NASCAR, where people are waiting to make that purchase later. The other thing, though, that I would add is the change in the product mix over the last 5 or 10 years. Before, when somebody was splurging on an event, it meant buying your best price ticket. And I think that's evolved over time where you're adding hospitality or these clubs, F&B, these loaded tickets. Today's consumer, it feels like it's really shifting more towards these unique experiences, these limited experiences. So for NASCAR, that could be, getting in a pace car before the race or celebrating in victory lane with a driver. So again, we really see this newer fan shifting more towards these experiences.
Awesome. Emily?
Yeah, Jeff took the words out of my mouth with spontaneous. We're seeing fans exhibit more spontaneous buying behavior, more likely to go up to one-off events. And I mean, if you think about it, we all have instant digital access in our pockets to a lot of information now. You want to go to the Celtics game tomorrow night, right? In a matter of seconds, you can pull up, maybe you go to SeatGeek, and you can pull up available inventory, pricing. Can you sit with 4 other people? Is that a good deal price-wise? There's a lot out there, and you can make decisions really quickly, which I think is contributing to some of these timelines of buying that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think to add on that, the question of what's changed about how people are buying tickets. First, you have to ask the question, what's changed about people, why people are buying tickets? Yeah. I think that has been as dramatic a shift as how. And there's been a lot of research, and I guess probably some out on the boards out there about particularly younger generations, millennials and Gen Zs, who are really getting into their high earning years and have this disposable income. And it's broadly accepted that there's a desire to spend on experiences rather than commodities. And then even with older generations, what started off as revenge spending post-COVID has become the new norm, even for some of the older demographics. So across the board, people want to spend on these experiences. And with that, though, there's higher expectations. I think to the point that Aaron was making, that's why buildings and venues and leagues are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into creating these premium experiences, because if you're going all in on an event, you want it to feel personalized, you want it to feel special and customized. And so then that shifts to how they buy tickets. And they want to be able to comparison shop. They want to be able to understand very clearly, what do I get with this? Food, beverage, access. And they don't want to have to go to one microsite to learn about this product and call somebody to learn about that product and then fill out a form stack to learn about this product. They want to be able to comparison shop, have everything at their fingertips. And at SeatGeek, we've seen in conjunction with our partners that when we're transparent, when we give them all the information and entice them with imagery and a full description of the event, they're going to transact at a higher velocity, and ultimately they're going to spend more.
That's awesome. Spontaneity. That's a great word, and that we'll continue to dig in. Emily, turning to you, and maybe you can talk a little bit as you answer the question around your role at Advantelect and where you focus from an MLB standpoint. But when you think about baseball, there are unique challenges in ticketing, from long seasons to varying demands across the markets. What lessons do you think we can all learn from the baseball ticketing strategies that you guys are working on that could apply to the industry overall?
Sure. So I oversee business development for MLB at Advantelect. We partner with teams across pro sports and other content providers to help them grow total ticket revenue in a number of ways using data and technology. I would actually flip the question a bit, because I think the opportunity we have in MLB is really exciting from a ticketing perspective. Yes, there's 81 home games. Demand can fluctuate significantly across seasons and within seasons. But I think that provides a lot of opportunity for innovation, and we've seen that across the league, across the marketing and technology as well. On the marketing side, you have 81 home games to test heritage nights, theme nights, physical promos. The Orioles are doing a hockey jersey in April. They have a religious following on their Hawaiian shirt night. The Red Sox had a really successful Alex Cooper activation last year. And so pushing the bounds on what those engagements can be, how you can get more fans, new fans into the ballpark, is something MLB has really leaned into. And then on the tech side, I believe the league has seen the value of open systems and delivering APIs to service providers. And that allows service providers to activate and really engage with club data and enhance it. And it allows them to drive automation in a way that I think has really benefited the league and many, many clubs as well. So yes, there are challenges, right? Hear you on that. But I think that it's actually a really exciting time. In MLB, there's a product for everyone. There's a get-in, there's an $800 ticket. And so how can we learn more about what gets people in the building, what gets new fans in the building? And I think that there's only more upside to come there. And there's a lot that other leagues can learn from MLB.
That's a great point in terms of how many touches in baseball you have to test and learn the expectations and collect more data to be able to refine those strategies going forward. Jeff, you sit in an interesting seat in Utah, especially with the Utah hockey coming online over the last year. What have been some of the biggest differences in approach when you think about building demand for a new market versus maybe managing an existing fan base, and kind of some of those highs, lows, and learnings that you can share out?
Yeah, first off, I think it was a brand new experience for so many of us. I think I can say none of us were really hockey people, and we didn't know hockey very well. And so we're taking a brand that had been around for 40 years, and you've got generational fandom, and then you've got hockey that all of us were experiencing for the first time. And going after that and talking through fan development and how we attacked this first year was a big piece of this, getting people in the door, getting people to experience a game. The interesting thing was when we went out with our deposits for season tickets, is we had only about 8% crossover between who was our Jazz fans and who are our season ticket holders as Jazz, and who were coming in and placing deposits for hockey. So the data was very interesting there. 70% of people that placed a deposit for hockey had not been in our building in the last year, and 50% had not been in the last 3 years. So it was a very different group, and so we had to come across that with how do we go develop this. And these are people we maybe didn't even have in our database, and we felt like as the singular team in a market, we knew most everybody in our market, and come to find out, we didn't. And so we've spent a lot of time this year figuring out how do we grow that. We've got to keep doing it and keep going. There's a newness to a team that's exciting, and if you let that wear off without growing your fans, then you find yourself in a little bit of trouble.
Awesome. Carrie, on the NASCAR side, so NASCAR events have a unique structure, so season-long fandom, but really one-time event attendees most often in the markets that you guys operate. How do you think about pricing strategies and inventory management when you don't have the same depth of historical customer data as the traditional stick and ball sports?
Yeah, and Emily, you said some of it. These traditional stick and ball sports have 80-plus games that they can do a lot of testing, learning, and refining those strategies. For NASCAR events at a single track, you may have 1, maybe 2 weekends a year, and so you really have to get that pricing right. What adds some additional challenge is when you have things like date changes or weather that starts to really impact that fan attendance, their decision-making in purchasing that ticket, and you're left wondering, okay, how much of it could have been these other outside factors, and how much of it is, some of the pricing decisions or changes that we made. The thing that we do have working in our advantage at NASCAR with how we're structured is you have NASCAR the league, and then you have 15 tracks that we own and operate. So we're able to go in, we pull in all of that transactional data, all the behavioral, the website metrics, the league-wide data, and we pull that all into what we call the NASCAR Data Garage. Yep. And so we can go and look at similar tracks to compare and really understand various trends. Are people traveling? How far out from the events are they purchasing? How are they spending? What are they buying? Mm-hmm. So really that's been a lot of our approach to pricing, given the limited data at the venue and event level, and really more focused on trying to find similar tracks and comparing across our organization.
Excellent. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Mike, as a ticketing platform, SeatGeek sits at the intersection of the products and the channels and the customers, kind of all that connectivity that we're talking about here. What do you think is the most important responsibility of the ticketing partner in terms of evolving the industry forward?
Yeah, I think the answer is in the question that you asked, and it's the word partner. Yeah. And I think it's taking a partner approach, and SeatGeek is not a vendor, they're not a supplier. We really take a full partner approach with each of our clients and everyone that we're talking to, and really a consultative, collaborative approach where the first conversation that we have with somebody is a session that we just call whiteboarding. And it's very simply posing the question, if you could wave a magic wand, what would ticketing look like? What would it look like for your fans? What would it look like for your staff? And ultimately, what would it look like for your bottom line? Because as a tech-first company built on a modern architecture, we believe that we have an advantage and are very nimble and can innovate a lot faster than some of the legacy platforms that are out there. And so we want to ask that question and hear. And I'll be honest with you, it's challenging at times for teams to think outside of the constraints that they've been living in for decades. And I think anyone who's in here on the team side and the property side can relate to this. You come up with this great idea for a new bundle, for a new package, for a new season ticket offering. And then you have to ask the dreaded question, can the system handle that? Can we even sell it that way? Right? And so many times the answer is no. And when you hear no's a lot, self-preservation kicks in and you stop asking that question. So we work really hard. And in fact, we challenge our teams and our partners to think big, because that's how we're going to grow. No two markets are the same. No two teams' objectives are the same. And once we know what those are, then we can customize a solution to help them achieve them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. There's a couple of questions coming in. I'll jump here before we move on to the next section. Good question from the audience. How are you connecting fan data across ticketing, direct-to-consumer, and resale to get a holistic customer view and household view? Are there still gaps in what you're trying to solve? Maybe Jeff, I'll look to you.
I was going to say that was maybe an Emily question.
Oh, okay. All right. You want to grab it?
Sure. I think there are gaps.
Yeah.
There are going to be gaps, and there's not perfect information out there, but we are moving toward an environment where we are bringing in data from all different sources, whether that is primary ticket sales, resale data, marketing data, clicks, conversion, web traffic, and marrying that together in one platform to not only inform decisions on pricing and inventory, but really give our partners a full view of what's going on. Oftentimes within a team, I'm sure many of you here know, there can be silos across different departments, and it's hard to get a good picture of exactly what's happening in one place. So yes, there are gaps, and there will be, but we're working to fill those. And it takes a good amount of time to invest in having this data. We've been around for 23 years now, so we have a lot of data, and we're continuing to ask ourselves, what else can we look for to help us answer these questions and to get smarter about the next evolution of ticketing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I'm going to jump in real
please.
quick.
Yeah.
I passed it to you because obviously Eventellect does a great job of this, but we pull in data from everywhere. And I think the main thing is to not assume that you know the answer and to let the data speak. And so it's a collaborative thing where we're working with our partners to pull in all of this data and then look at it and move from there.
Awesome. All right, switching gears a little bit, we're going to go tech and AI, thematic from the conference standpoint. For all the panelists, and we'll start with you, Mike, what role does technology such as AI, machine learning, plays in optimizing ticketing sales, pricing, and fan experience from your perspective?
Well, I'll start off with a confession, and that was a couple years ago. I was sitting on a panel, and I was asked a question that's something like, AI is going to revolutionize ticket sales, buy, sell, or hold. And I think my answer was I was a hold at that point. And a lot of that is because I need to see it in action. Hope is not a strategy. Yeah. I want to understand exactly how we're going to leverage this technology. And it wasn't until I got to SeatGeek and I started really digging in with Derek Zhu, who's here. And if you haven't met him, everyone should talk to him. He's super smart. And he started explaining to me how SeatGeek is using AI, particularly with regards to pricing. And really getting into the weeds, the differentiators that I saw was first that it is not reactive and waiting until tickets sell. It's predictive, and it's looking at things beyond just ticket sales. It's looking at page views and clicks and Google searches to understand where interest is growing or waning. And then the second part is that it is integrated in real time to the primary market so that these changes can happen thousands a day while we're sleeping. And I mean, think about other industries. Think about Uber's flex pricing. If Uber's flex pricing had to be generated and then somebody sitting at a computer screen had to push it live, people would say that's crazy. Like how is that efficient? And so we've removed that human barrier of having to push it live, and so we can react in real time. And maybe it's the Luca trade, right? That gets announced. There's rumors. People start immediately searching and want to buy. And it might be 10 o'clock at night when someone's not in front of their computer, but the system recognizes increased demand and is able to react to it. One of the other, I think, really big advances is making that technology available to fans so that when fans go to resell, they are given the same tools that teams and venues and folks like yourself have so that they are in line with the market and they're not dragging down. All it takes is a few to disrupt and shift the market, and that's not how free markets are supposed to work. Everyone's supposed to be as informed as they can be. So seeing this in action made me a firm believer, and I'm all in.
Awesome. And if you could talk to your old self in that operator seat, what are some of the changes that you see on the team side to be able to take advantage of that from an operational standpoint?
On the team side, there are 100 little areas where AI can help, and they're not necessarily that sexy use case like I just talked about in being able to optimize ticket pricing in real time, but just 100 little efficiencies gained add up over the course of a year. Teams run lean, and their resources are at a premium. They have to maximize the time they have. So looking at even some of the smaller building blocks add up over time.
That's awesome. All right, Emily, tech, AI, machine learning. What is that role?
All the most popular words these days.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been using AI for pricing and forecasting for several years now. There's a lot that goes into what makes different markets, demand scenarios. Ticketing is always on. Someone is always buying a ticket, doesn't shut off. So we view AI as a tool that strategic human oversight can really enhance. And so, yeah, we've been doing it on the pricing and forecasting side for a long time. That started with machine learning and heuristics and has moved to sequence models with guardrails and meta parameters on top. What our focus is for this year is scaling AI across the business in ways that are not considered maybe traditionally data science. So how can our ticket strategy team become more efficient by using AI? For example, can we extract insights and information from our data, from partner data, from the real world online, and deliver them to our partners in a timely manner in a way that a human could not manually do, ever.
That translation, that application of the insight.
And just the scale of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie, on the NASCAR side?
Yeah, well, we were trying to do that all by ourselves for a very long time.
Yep.
I think very similar. We've used AI in terms of dynamic pricing, as well as how we were scoring fans from a retention standpoint. But the thing that I'm really most excited about, that we're just getting started in, so I don't really have any results to share yet, but we're looking at it more on the marketing side, and an upgrade that we're making in our Adobe stack to include Adobe Journey Optimizer. So this will help to take all of this great data that sits in that data garage and make sense of the audiences and help us understand how to automate, how to utilize the predictive analytics that sit within this tool in some of the real-time decisioning that it will offer, pushing fans between different channels. So we're still early in this. Nothing to report here as far as how it's working for us yet, but hopefully next conference we'll have something more to share.
Well, especially with NASCAR having so many products to interact with, being able to utilize those insights and those tools to be able to bring that together and simplify so that you can meet the expectations and the experience and the spontaneity that people are looking for.
Yep.
Excellent. Jeff?
Well, Eventellect is one of our big partners, so anything that they do, we just get a piggyback off of, so thank you.
Plus one.
On the sales side, it's interesting. Like 10 years ago, we'd have 3 people sit in a room and decide pricing and just say, oh, what do you think? Well, what do you think? That sounds good, let's roll with it. And now there's so much more that goes into that, and so we're able to be far more accurate and nimble. But on the sales side, our reps will use AI. We're diving in with AI, email communication, text communication. We'll have clients that come ask to see one of our reps at one of the games that doesn't exist because they've been chatting with AI and buying tickets from AI. And so, we always tell them that those people have the night off. But we're still, jumping into it. It's something that we're learning and as we go, and it's going to just increase each year.
Great. Another innovation topic. So many teams and venues are experimenting with subscription models and flexible ticketing and new ways to be able to reach the fan for what they want at the time they want it. What impact have you seen from some of these approaches? Have you experimented yourself, or how are you thinking about some of these new innovation concepts? Who wants to start?
I can start. We tried a subscription model in 2021 for the first time and included a event from our arena. So for a set price per month, you'd get at least 3 jazz games, and then we didn't know what we were doing. First month was a Luke Combs concert,
cool.
So the value was we were trying to grow the program.
Yeah.
And then the next month was like monster trucks or something, and we started to play with that a little bit, but I think there's definitely a market for it. We were able to upsell that group too. We would send out offers to add certain things. You could add the Warriors game, you could add a Justin Bieber concert for an additional price beyond that. But the idea was to target college-age kids and give them kind of a flexible model where they'd via text opt in to a game and then get their ticket and sit by a friend. And we've now done that again this year, and it seems to be working fairly well.
Awesome. For both properties?
Both properties are included. So we've eliminated the concert and arena show. Just some months there isn't one that makes a ton of sense. I don't think a ton of college kids want to go see Iron Maiden, but so some might be.
Yeah.
But we've just gone with hockey and jazz.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that just the concept of meeting the fan where they are is really important, and I think it's something that our industry has evolved into a lot over the last decade or two. The days of just a full season plan are over, and I think where the challenge comes is the execution of all of these different plans and packages. And first, from my current perspective, it has to be native in the system. It has to be an easy transaction and buying experience to where the fan knows exactly what they're getting. But it also then permeates down into the marketing side, where if you've got 60, 70 different products that are tailored for different groups, you have to make sure that you're serving that particular product to the right group at the right time. And you can't just have this long menu and expect people to go through all of it themselves.
That's great. All right, to round out the tech and innovation for all the panelists, what innovations in ticketing technology do you think will have the biggest impact over the next 3 to 5 years? Mike, maybe I'll start with you.
I don't think it's just 1 or 2 or even 5.
Yep.
I think that just we are at an inflection point, and I think that we need to step back and redefine what good is. Because my personal perspective and the view at SeatGeek is that ticketing has been behind the evolutionary curve compared to other industries. And I think we're using that to our advantage and saying, look, let's look at the best-in-class apps and e-commerce sites that are out there and say, how do we capture the seamlessness of Amazon? How do we capture the upsell prowess of the cruise industry? How do we capture the personalization of an airline app and take all the best of that and come out the other side with something much, much better? I think to go down a bit of a metaphorical rabbit hole here, if we were asking this question in 1995, before a lot of you were born, to a group of taxi cab drivers and said, how do we innovate the taxi industry? No one there is going to say, oh, we should think of something like Uber, where everyone has a taxi cab, because they're looking at it through their lens, right? They've got a monopoly on the space, and they're going to come up with small ideas versus stepping back and saying, there's a much better way. And then you start saying, okay, let's get to the Uber phase, but now let's start thinking about the autonomous driver phase and what is in the future.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump over some questions for a minute here. Staying on the topic of AI and tech, with the addition of AI, is there a drive for a focus on dynamic ticket pricing even more in the industry? And if that's true, what are the concerns of potentially stepping away from maybe variable pricing? Emily, do you want to take that? Or?
Sure. I think there's been a focus on dynamic pricing for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's a material shift in mindset in that way. I think there's still some learnings across all leagues about it. I think what's really important is getting your initial pricing right, because everything builds off of that.
Yep.
And everything is related to how you scale your building, how you price season tickets, and all products flow from there.
Right.
So I think there's a willingness to dynamically price. I think the learnings now are, how are we setting ourselves up to do that in a way that's revenue maximizing and also filling the ballpark or the arena or the stadium?
Yeah.
And people are sort of, clubs in particular, taking a step back and saying, what's our foundation? Where are we starting? Because that impacts how we price from there.
Yeah, awesome.
But I'm just going to add on to that a little bit too. I think also, in addition to maximizing revenue and filling the seats, it's how do you do so in a way where it doesn't confuse the consumer. So, we all probably do have various tools where you can change pricing hourly if you really want to. But for those shoppers that are out there looking at tickets, we want to make sure that we aren't overwhelming them with too much. And so it's finding that sweet spot of driving revenue while not confusing the consumer.
And that's where inventory management comes in too,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You know, it's not a good idea to put out every ticket in your building at on sale.
Right.
That's a lot of choices for a consumer, especially if you're dynamically pricing them in some way. So having a price point for everyone who is there, but also having some scarcity is really important to help streamline the consumer experience and journey.
Yeah, and you look at that holistically on the baseball side.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
And I think something that was said there is really important is dynamic pricing isn't just about maximizing by pricing up.
Right.
We have to be willing, and I think that we as an industry have gotten over this concern of pricing down at times, but there are a lot of instances where pricing down to meet the consumer actual demand is going to bring more people into the ballpark. You're going to get that ticket revenue, you're going to get that per cap, you're going to get that name in the database, and you're going to be able to retarget them again. So I think looking at it holistically, yes, maximize when the opportunity is there, but also mitigate and just grow the entire pie.
Yeah, awesome. All right, switching gears a little bit. So we talked the tech and innovation. Let's talk future of ticketing operations. So the people that, and then the organizations that need to make this a reality on a day-to-day basis. How do you see the future of ticket operations evolving? Will there be more direct-to-consumer sales, partnerships, new hybrid model? Maybe Jeff, you can speak to this.
Yeah, I think you've got to be nimble.
Yeah.
People, what we started off with, right? People are buying day of, day before, and people want experiences. And so you've got to find a way to combine those and create some uniqueness in your offerings. And so the future of ticket operations is you can't just put out tickets and hope they sell. You've got to do more than that. Obviously, with Eventellect, allows us to put our tickets out across a bunch of different platforms and be able to maintain some pricing integrity across all of those, and so that we don't see the bottom, drop out. But I think nimble, staying nimble is the main key.
Awesome. Carrie, what about yourself?
And I would say simple, back to not overwhelming the consumer, and I think we've all kind of already shared it. It's one thing to go and put all of your products on sale at one time, right? That's probably not a best practice. How do we take all of these insights to make sure that we're right-selling fans? So I would say really the more we can keep it simple and keep it personalized, obviously the best.
Yep. Emily?
I think direct-to-consumer is going to continue to grow and evolve. I think that is even more so the case as AI continues, not to go back to AI, everyone, but AI continues to be a growing factor in personalization in particular. And, I've been to a few of these conferences, we talk about personalization every year, but we now have a way to scale it. And I don't know, Instagram knows exactly what I want to buy all the time, but they're never selling me tickets. And I buy a lot of tickets, or I go to a lot of events. So how can we meet fans there with this new and emerging technology to give them what they want when they want it? And we've seen it in e-commerce, to your point, and I think it's exciting to be able to leverage some of those learnings and best practices, and I'm looking forward to how that evolves.
Awesome. Agree?
One of the things that I've really enjoyed, and for the past 20 years, I've been on the team and property side, and you're very focused on your market, your fan base, but stepping over to SeatGeek, I've really taken a step back and looked at the industry at large and realized that no two markets are the same, no two teams and their fan bases are the same. Even a team from one year to the next is in a different phase of their win-loss arcs. And so being able to just be nimble and identify the solution that works best for your market at that point in time, and being willing to make changes when it's appropriate is critical. And I think, from the ticketing platform's perspective, you just have to provide that flexibility to run the playbook that makes the most sense for you at the time.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump to another question from the audience, and we haven't talked about this yet. So it seems that premium sales have become a larger and a larger piece of ticketing revenue and focus. How do you balance growing premium sales with ensuring ticket access for the general fan?
Yeah, I think, so we're going through a renovation. We just bought a hockey team, and we are trying to fit a hockey rink into a basketball building. And so we've got a 3-summer renovation that's going to go on, and a big focus of that is premium. And we want to increase the different types of offerings that we have with premium, and so that there's something, and Mike talked to this a little bit, but you're meeting fans where they're at. There's something for everybody, and you don't have to just go out with a blanket. We've got 5,000 Upper Bowl tickets now. We have a lot of different premium offerings that come with different things.
Yep. Awesome. Gary?
Yeah, it really is the variety, and making sure that we are satisfying what that general ticket buyer is looking for in their race day experience. So there's a number of free areas outside of the ticket gates and our midways where you can see drivers, and there's entertainment, there's shopping. So again, making sure that all of those things, that we keep that consistent and we don't start charging fans for what they expect out of their race day experience already.
Right.
But then having tiered experiences, whether it's hospitality, whether it's access, to allow fans to buy into those on a limited basis. So again, it goes back to understanding your customer, using that data to then make sure that we're targeting them with the right offers.
Excellent.
Yeah, and actually, I would just add on to that too. I think just the recognition that the two aren't mutually exclusive. Not that long ago, you think about selling premium and you pictured people dressed like us coming to the game, business purposes, et cetera. But like we've talked about, consumers want that high-end experience as well, fans. And I think that the lines are blurring a little bit there. And the notion that general consumers aren't price sensitive, they're value sensitive. If you're giving them more value, they're going to be more likely to transact into those spaces and actually walk away with a much better feeling and experience and want to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we often think about value from a monetary perspective, and that's not the only measure of value.
Yeah.
To Mike's point, the ability to offer access to something, whether it's a driver or a player or a certain club experience, or you can only help name the team if you're in the building, right? That is a valuable experience and contributes to a fan's thought of, was this experience worth the dollar paid?
Yeah. And doubling down a little bit on that, just with some of the clients that you work with in the baseball space, like how have you seen the business priorities change around ticketing? Because the value piece is really interesting there, and how to think about it beyond just maybe the revenue.
Yep. Well, the priority is revenue.
Yeah.
And I think right now revenue growth is front and center, but you have to do that in a way that you're still filling the building, you're still giving fans long-term value, to your point, and the way we've seen clubs think about it is to start looking at their ticketing ecosystem more holistically. So it's no longer, I'm selling seasons and here's my goal, I'm selling groups and here's my incentive and my goal. It's what is our total ticket revenue goal and how can we get there?
Yeah.
And what levers can we pull across the club to reach and ultimately, hopefully, exceed that goal? How can we layer in automation and technology to scale and get us there? But how can we break down those silos across the club and align and say, get someone on the group team to understand we're going to sell fewer groups to this game because it's a high demand game. We're optimizing for single game, but that's going to flex based on the scenario.
Yeah.
And it requires a lot of alignment around a single goal.
Yeah, that's great. Jeff, we're going to hit a little bit back to you. I think you talked a lot about nimble and kind of being able to be accessible, and you're trying new things in terms of the expectations. When you think about the data that's important, like what are some of the key elements there that you guys use on a day-to-day basis or long-term basis to really drive that and optimize ticketing?
We try to make all of our decisions based on data and not just look at someone's opinion. I think a good example was when we transitioned to SeatGeek. Our first show in the building, I think, was a concert from the band Depeche Mode. And so you look at our users and people that were buying the tickets, and it was people that had not been to our building in the last couple of years and probably weren't familiar with our app and with just the general know-how of the parking passes and getting into the building and security and all of that. And so we're able to adjust some of our strategies for that night in providing service to our patrons versus in 2 weeks later having a Jazz game where people had been in the building year after year after year. They're familiar with our app. They know how to get in and being able to provide the right service to the right people. So each vertical is a little bit different. I mentioned some of those statistics with hockey. We knew that this year with our first hockey game, we were going to have a ton of people that had not been to our building in a year or 2 years. And so using that data to adjust our approach can help personalize the experience more for our clients and make sure that it's not a frustrating experience to come to our building, that they want to come back time and time again.
That's great. All right, jumping to a couple questions. We got a few minutes left here. And maybe to Carrie, how are you balancing ticket inventory allocation for consumers versus sponsors, especially as consumers want more of those premium experiences that could be traditionally used for sponsors?
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good job of balancing what a sponsor's looking for versus a consumer. They tend to be different. For our events. You know, a lot of our sponsors are looking more for that garage access, and they're there largely from a business perspective. Where our consumers are looking more for, hey, get me in a race car, get me in that pace car, and drive around in that thrill. So it's a little bit of a different audience, I would say, between our sponsors and what they're looking for out of a race day versus the consumer. Where we do have crossover, though, it's just good communication with our partnership team to understand how we balance those assets.
An interesting question here around some of the all-in pricing laws and practices, and we'll see maybe Emily or Mike, you can take this. How do you believe the transparency and increased information with all-in pricing laws and practice will impact ticketing going forward?
Well, I and SeatGeek are huge proponents of all-in pricing. And I think that, I talked about this several times today, I think transparency is critical because consumers are used to that everywhere else that they go, and you know their demands are only increasing, and so I think we have to rise and meet that expectation. So yes, all-in pricing is the baseline, but then it's layering in all-in value on top of that, like we've talked about. How do you make them really understand what they're getting with this ticket? Because that's ultimately going to justify the price that they pay.
Yeah. Absolutely. And where you guys, from a SeatGeek standpoint, are continuing to innovate kind of the products to be able to help the teams. And
that's exactly it. That's where we're spending a lot of time on that. We're making a lot of investments in exactly that, so that you're not buying dots on a screen. You're buying the experience that is laid out for you through imagery, through descriptive text that really explains and starts to paint the picture for somebody. But the other thing too is, it doesn't end when you buy the ticket from our perspective. That's just the beginning. There's a period of time, maybe it's only 3 days, but maybe it's longer between when you buy the ticket and when you go to the game. And so serving fans opportunities to enhance their event, their experience, is very well received. If it's not something you're interested in, you pass on it. But a lot of times people won't even know that some of these things exist, whether it's access to a club or one of these unique experiences that only can happen at the event. And so understanding the fans and at the micro level and what's going to entice them, you can extract more dollars, but you can also really enhance their event.
Awesome. One quick question here, and then we'll do a quick rapid fire. So team performance. How do you think about that in terms of ticket pricing strategy as team performance increases or decreases over time?
Yeah, I think this was mentioned by a few people, but our product changes year to year, and we have to be able to adapt to that. This year, we have a hockey team that's brand new, and there's a ton of excitement around that. When we launched the hockey team and started taking deposits, in 3 weeks we had 35,000 ticket deposits. We have got an arena that this year fits 11,000 full view seats and about 15,000 with some obstructed views or single goal views seats. And then we've got a Jazz team that's rebuilding. And so we've been balancing that just within our own organization this year, right? With a team that is developing young talent and hopefully adding more soon. And a team that is brand new, exciting, pushing hopefully for playoffs. And so you just have to reevaluate every year. You can't be stuck in a certain way and do things the same every year. You've got to reevaluate and look at that. and as a team collaborate and look at your data and what's it teaching you and telling you to move forward.
Awesome. All right, rapid fire. We'll start with Mike. What ticketing innovation most excites you as you look out 5 years?
I think just the fact that in 5 years, I don't think ticketing is going to look anything like it looks today. Awesome. And I'm really excited to see that come to fruition and just be aligned with the top consumer purchasing experiences out there.
Emily.
I'm going back to AI for personalization and pushing me what you know I want and when you know I want it. And at what price you know I want to buy it at.
There you go.
Very similar, I think. It's how can we go and evolve ticketing to reflect more like the retail, the Amazon model, using that data to simplify and tell me what are the 3 options that fit my needs.
Yep, I think exactly right. Personalization, experience.
Awesome. And my word is spontaneity. I love that. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for the questions. Hopefully we got to a couple of them, and thank you to the panelists.
Thank you.